Geronimo Stilton, the Guardian of the Realm, the 11th Adventure in the Kingdom of Fantasy. Read by Hosea Tong Ho. Hello, rodent friends. It's me, Geronimo Stilton in the Fur. I bet you're wondering why I'm dressed up in this funny outfit. Well, it all started not too long ago when I went on my last adventure to the Kingdom of Fantasy. On that journey, I met the wise and powerful Clever Chameleon, who lives in a place called the Bright Mountains. Clever is no ordinary lizard. He's a master of martial arts and invented the study of the split tongue. Anyways, where was I? Ah, yes. I was about to tell you about my latest adventure. This one begins, as I said before, in a place beyond the Kingdom of Fantasy, in the Bright Mountains. The Bright Mountains are outside the time of space, and to reach them, you have to travel through the Kingdom of Fantasy. Confused yet? Well, don't pull out your whiskers. I will explain. Just get ready for another Fabby Mouse adventure filled with dark secrets, mystical creatures, and of course, danger. This is how it all started. Well, I guess it would make sense if I began at the beginning. So here goes. After my last trip to the Kingdom of Fantasy, I had lost what I wanted to get it back. Clever Chameleon offered me to buy my master and to teach me how to regain my title. He led me to his refuge on the tippy top of the Bright Mountains. Oh, what a scary trip. To reach the Bright Mountains, we walked for 500,000 days. Well, okay, maybe it wasn't that long, but it was exhausting. Plus, along the way, we met fantastical creatures of every kind, including those as small as gnomes, as large as giants, as kind as fairies, as mystical as phoenix of fire, and as mysterious as the unicorns, as disrespectful as the sprites, as stinky as the trolls, as frightening as the orcs, and as scary as the scaly winged dragons, and as terrible as the witches. What a fright. Even though I was exhausted, I was still very curious. So I said, Master, may I ask you a question? He responded with a smile and nod. Well, I want to know what you were taking to me. Will it cost much longer? What does my training consist of? Is it long? Will it be hard? Will it be scary? But most of all, why did you pick me? I squeaked. Clever sighed. I will have much work to do with you. I said one question. But you asked me 7. I'll give you just one answer, he responded. I don't know why I chose you, and I'm afraid I will regret it. But I know that soon you will have a new mission, on the safety of the entire Kingdom of Fantasy will depend on it. So, in the name of Queen Blossom, I will train you. But whether you will be able to learn and survive, and how long it will take, this is yet to be determined. I checked my whiskers. What did Cleve mean? If I was able to survive, I was dying to ask more questions, but I didn't. Good thing, because a minute later, the Chameleon insisted I not squeak a word, until we reached some place called the Path of the Frozen Shivers. Then he told me the story about the importance of silence. A young mouse went one day to a master of wisdom and began chattering up a storm. Then he said, "Oh, master, I want to be as wise as you, and I am ready to become your student." And the master interrupted me. "May I offer you a cup of tea?" he asked. The mouse nodded, and the master began to pour a cup of tea from my teapot. When the cup was full, the master continued to pour the liquid, which spilled over. "Master, don't you see that the cup is full?" asked the mouse. The master nodded and explained, "Just like this cup, your mind is too full of opinions and words with something else to fit inside. How can I teach you wisdom if first you don't empty your cup?" The young mouse finally understood. In order to learn, you must first listen. After Claire finished speaking, we took off again. Cheese niblets. My paws were aching. Finally, we arrived at the Path of the Frozen Shivers. It didn't take long for me to figure out how the path got its name. In front of me rose an impossibly steep stone staircase. Just look at my fur, shivering. After hours of climbing and terrifyingly steep stone staircase overlooking the cliffs, we finally arrived at the top of the Bright Mountains. There was a little house with a red roof. Tiny colorful dragons flew in circles above it. "Welcome to the house among the clouds," Clever announced. "This will be your home until you have finished the training. But I must warn you, whatever you do, do not bother the dragons." Normally, the dragon warning would have been made. My whiskers quiver with fear. But I was so tired, all I could do was collapse in a furry heap. I had a terrible night, tossing and turning on top of some wicker that were placed on the floor. My bones were erect. At dawn, Cleaver Chameleon woke me up by banging on a gigantic gong. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Student, the sun has risen. Time to get off your tail. There's no more room for laziness along the balanced path, Cleaver scolded. I got up with a start and it hit my head against a beam on the ceiling. Youch! Huh? What? Who? I babbled. Still half asleep, Cleaver huffed impatiently. He pushed me aside and announced solemnly, Lesson number 1. He who wants to follow the balanced path must never laze about. Student, during the day you will be training constantly. To help you with the difficult task, I am assigning you to a mini dragon to keep an eye on you. His name is Bluewing. He will make sure you keep moving and stay busy, and most of all, stopping you from being a lazy rodent. I tried to protest that I was really not lazy at all. In fact, I was a very productive mouse. I mean, I am the publisher of the Rodent Gazette, and I have written lots of best-selling books. My only downfall is that I am not a morning mouse. Can I help if I wake up slowly with a hot shower and maybe a yummy cheese Danish? Just thinking about food made my stomach rumble, but my thoughts were interrupted by a loud squawk. Help! Bluewing had perched on my shoulder and was chomping on my ear. Then he yelled, Bluewing, at your service, Cleaver Chameleon. Don't worry, I'll get this rodent in tip-top shape in no time. Chest out, stand up straight, eyes on me. I gulped. Something told me I wasn't going to be waking up to cheesy Danish any time soon. I am leaving you in great hands. I mean claws, Cleve chuckled, turning to me. In 9 months, you will receive the blue belt, the first stage in your journey towards the balanced path. Now, I will take off to Crystal Castle to talk to Queen Blossom. It was dawn of the very last day of the very last month of my training when Cleaver Chameleon returned. Master! 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 Bluewing screamed, excitedly jumping up and down. Welcome back, Master! Guess what? I am totally done. Done with the fool. I mean, well, more or less. I did everything I possibly could, and it wasn't easy, let me tell you, but I did it. Basically, the student is ready to become the guardian of the realm. Cleaver Chameleon stared at me and concluded, Student, your training is finished. I let out a sigh of relief. So can I go home now? I squeaked. Uh-oh, within seconds, the chameleon turned in an annoyed shape of red, then purple, then back to blue again. Did I say how you could go home? He snapped. No, you must learn to have listened. Sheesh! If you didn't have to begin your mission so soon, I'd make sure you start training all over again. Another 9 months with Bluewing screaming at me, rat-munching rattlesnakes. This crazy adventure was turning into one big nightmare. I fell to my knees and began sobbing like a sprinkler system on a high speed. But Master, I cried, I don't have it in me. I'm just an ordinary mouse. For some reason, this made the chameleon smile. You are learning, student, he nodded. Then he explained that I was about to embark on an extremely dangerous mission. Apparently, Queen Blossom wanted to nominate me to a personal defender. Instantly, I began twisting my tail in knots. Me? Why me? I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I'm a total fraidy mouse. Clever Chameleon seemed to read my thoughts. Don't worry, he said. If you're ready, you'll be fine. And if not, well, it was nice knowing you. Then he gave me some armor and a blue belt. As for your mission, we will receive word momentarily, he muttered, scanning the sky anxiously. How strange. Clive explained that the special armor was known as the armor of light. The belt was the color of the spring. I knelt down and my master gave me the blue fabric belt. I promised to honor the belt, and then I recited the 33 golden rules of the balanced path. It was exactly at that moment that a mini dragon messenger flew down to us. His scales were dirty, and I noticed that he was wearing a silver medallion around his neck. Bluewing flew over him. Redwing, my brother, what happened? What news have you brought us? The mini dragon huffed and puffed. Hang on, gotta catch my breath here, the dragon coughed. Then he said, okay, I've got good news and I've got bad news. Which one do you want first? The good news, I begged. The good news is that after 9 months, the queen has given birth to a beautiful baby girl. She will be the new queen of the realm when she grows up. Princess Winglet. Then Redwing handed me a scroll and a red medallion. Those words were written on the scroll. Guardian of the realm, bright defender, this medallion is for you. You are in charge of watching over the little princess. I opened the medallion. Inside was a picture of an adorable baby. She looked exactly like Queen Blossom. I was filled with a sense of joy. Little Winglet had the sweetest face. For a minute, I forgot all about Clever Charmeleon, the many dragons, and my training to be a true knight. And for now, the bad news, Redwing announced, bursting my happy bubble. Alas, Little Winglet, the future of the realm, has just been kidnapped. The queen has called you to her palace. She needs you, Mouse, and you too, Clever Chameleon. The little princess has been kidnapped? Who would do such a horrible thing? I squeaked. Who could do that? The queen is counting on you to find out. You must leave at once, Redwing insisted. A dark, wicked, mysterious shadow is headed towards the kingdom of fantasy, he continued. At this, Clever Chameleon began muttering under his own breath. A dark, wicked, mysterious shadow? Then suddenly he seemed to light up and shouted, Of course, why didn't I think of it? The dark shadow prophecy is coming true. Then he ran in the house and came back with a trunk made of pink wood. He opened it in front of us. It contained an ancient scroll and a spade with a crystal point, which was kept inside a blue case. Clive unrolled the scroll and read the prophecy. When the dark shadow does appear, a treasure is stolen and replaced with fear. Then a bright guardian you must find, he who is smart and brave and kind. With a powerful sword and a precious gem, he must conquer the shadow to breathe again. Huh? I didn't understand a thing. What was the dark shadow? What kind of treasure? Who was the guardian realm? I was completely confused. Right then, I noticed Clever Charmeleon, who was staring at me intensely. Then he pointed a claw at me and announced, Student, I believe you are the bright guardian. I gulped. Me? I stammered. But I'm not a fighter. I'm just a mouse. Correction. I'm a fraidy mouse. The Charmeleon stopped me. We will find out soon enough. Try to draw the sword. It's called a Luminous. It's a legendary sword that is very sharp and has great power. Only the guardian that the prophecy speaks of will be able to draw it. No one has managed to remove it from its case for more than thousands and thousands of years. With my heart beating like a freight train, I grabbed the sword and muttered to myself, It can't be. I'm not a guardian. I'm a bystander. But the sword came out of its case without a struggle, with a crystal sound that chimed like thousands of silver bells. Luminous. Clive nodded. Well, that's it. Courageous or not, you're a bright guardian, the prophecy spoke of. Now quickly, we must go to the crystal castle. But now my whiskers were twitching with fear. But what could I do? I couldn't say no to Queen Blossom. I had to help. Okay, I'll do it. But how will we get to the castle? I squeaked. Simple, the mini dragon answered. We'll go by Healer Dragon. It's the fastest way to travel in the kingdom of fantasy. He's a dragon with golden scales with no arrow and can penetrate anything. A few minutes later, we heard a loud flapping sound. In a moment, we were surrounded by a terrible swamp smell, and right then, an enormous dragon with golden scales arrived. It was the Healy Dragon. And in the small cabin, he was carrying Scribble Hopper, my frog friend. Scribble Hopper greeted me from afar. Knight! Bright Guardian! Finally, I found you. Quick, hop on, the queen is waiting. That's why she sent me to get you by Healer Dragon. We're in a super rush. Though, who knows if we'll get there alive. By the way, have you written your will? My will? Why? I yelled, a sense of dread running down my fur. The frog snorted. It's always best to take precautions before you board a Healer Dragon. But you'll see, it is most unforgettable experience, if you live to tell it. Cliff sighed. Well, it seems we don't have any other choice. We will go by Healer Dragon after all. I've lived a long life. I cringed. The Healer Dragon was sounding scarier than a rabid cat at a cheese festival. Meanwhile, Scribble Hopper was pushing me along. Come on, stop dragging your paws, he croaked, sounding annoyed. Then he pulled a small silver box out of his pockets and threw it at me. Here are some healer pills. They may help you with an air sickness. Oh, and you might as well take this paper bag too, in case you really lose it, he added. I was stunned. The frog, who had always been my dear friend, was being so rude. How strange. Still, there was no time to think about it. The healer dragon was waiting. By the time we left it, it was almost dawn. Before long, I noticed some dark stripes on the horizon. My heart skipped a beat. That dark thing over there. Down there. What is it? I asked nervously. Scribble Hopper rolled his eyes. Let's see. It's sticky and gummy and stinky and disgusting. What do you think it is? It's a dark shadow, of course, he declared. I thought you were supposed to be bright. I ignored the insult and continued. But it is a very dangerous mission. Bluing, the mini dragon, who was perched on my shoulder, bit my ear. Guardian! Clear out your eardrums! That's the dark shadow! The dark shadow! D as in dark, A as in amazingly wicked, R as in repulsive, K as in you can kick it, S as sickening, H as in horrible, A as in ack, D as in dreadful, O as in oh help, Y as in why me? Oh no, W as in why me? In a flash, we were immersed in a dark cloud that was black, as dense as tar, and was trying to surround us. Just then, Scribble Hopper yelled, "Look out! Dark shadow approaching!" The healer dragon took off suddenly, causing a squash effect that reached from my stomach to my knees. Then he darted down towards a bounce effect that jumps on my stomach up to my tonsils. Then began to zigzag, dodging clusters of dark cloud, causing a shaker effect in my stomach, which sloshed this way and that way. What awful nausea! The healer dragon was flying as fast as lightning, and I understood why Blossom had chosen it as our mode of transport. It was only thanks to that extraordinary dragon that we managed to avoid those dangerous dark cloud clusters that were chasing us, surrounding us, and trying to drown us like a cracker sinking into a tub of hot cheddar dip. Finally, we left the dark shadow behind us. We did it, I celebrated, but Clever Charmeleon cut my party short. It's true we left it behind, but soon it will reach the Crystal Castle. Within a day, it will arrive at the Fairy City. Rats! Scribble Hopper sobbed. Ah, what a disaster. What a tragedy. What a catastrophe. Little Winglet kidnapped. Crystal Castle under attack by the Dark Shadow. The Kingdom of Fantasy is in danger, he turned towards me. But you, Bright Defender, you surely have a solution. You know, some brilliant idea. After all, you're supposed to be important. So brave, so wonderful, and so smart. Well, come on, we don't have all day. What's your plan? I was more and more stunned by Scribble Hopper's rudeness. Still, I replied kindly. I'm sorry, Scribble Hopper, but for now, I don't have any ideas. Mostly because I don't understand what happened. How is it possible that someone managed to get into Crystal Castle and kidnap Winglet? How? Clever Charmeleon nodded. Well said, student. Finally, you are thinking before you act. It seems your training wasn't useless after all. We traveled in the Healer Dragon for hours, flying super high above the kingdom clouds. We were approached by the Kingdom of Fairies. I looked out, hoping to see the sparkling towers of the Crystal Castle, but instead, I saw a threatening dark silhouette cutting across our path. It was an enormous flying machine, shaped like a bat. It had large, dark wings, and a huge metal claw. It was using to destroy the forest. The claws picked up trees, throwing them in a furnace, and leaving behind a trail of black smoke. The Charmeleon announced solemnly, "That is Dragonster, the forest killer. It is Nebula's flying kingdom. Let's just hope it didn't see us, or we're done for." "We need to hide from the Dragonster, and there's only one way to do it," Scribble Hopper yelled. "We'll need to create a Helen stink. It's an enormous, stinky cloud produced by Helen Dragon." Quickly, Scribble Hopper passed us some clothespins. "Take these and plug your nose." Then he turned to me. "There's only one tiny detail to make this Helen stink you. Bright Defender, we'll need to feed the Helen Dragon tons and tons of holly beans." "Why me?" I protested. "Because you're the guardian. Because it's your job." Scribble Hopper huffed. His attitude was starting to really annoy me. What could I do? I had to save us. so I began feeding the holly dragon shovels of holly beans, full of holly beans, shoveled after shovel. The holly dragon devoured all the holly beans, and he even licked it. He let out a low burp. Well, actually, it wasn't low. It was super loud. "Plug up your nose," Scribblehopper warned. "Here it comes." The holly dragon let out a series of farts. Then he let out a really loud one. The stinky clouds surrounded us, hiding us in the fog. Chinky cheesy chews. The plan worked. Now the dragonster couldn't see us anymore. We were safe. But before I could celebrate, someone pushed me hard from behind. Suddenly, my happiness turned into shrieks of fear as it began to fall. As I was falling, I asked myself, who pushed me and why? Or could I have fallen on my own? How strange. Finally, I landed at the end of a forest, in a green field. I was sure that I would be crushed, but luckily my enchanted armor that Cliff had given me saved me. In fact, as soon as the ground came near, the armor of light let out a powerful blue ray of light that slowed my fall until they stopped completely. Incredible! It truly was enchantment armor. Thankfully, I wasn't hurt, but when I stood up, I saw a dark shadow on the ground and looked up. The dragonster. The forest color flew low to the ground, cutting the trees as it went with long, sharp blades. Terrorized, I tried to flee, but I heard Wither's voice yelling from above, "Stop him! That's the guardian of the realm!" Right then, a fine, stinky net dropped over me. I tried to use my sword to free myself, but it didn't work. The web was a bewitched spider's web. A terrifying chill ran down my fur as the web lifted me up, higher and higher. A moment later, I found myself inside the dragonster, and I was all wrapped up. A crowd of ugly, wicked witches appeared, led by a chubby witch I knew well. It was Grosselda Grimwitch. To make things worse, there was a cat there too. It was a big black cat dressed as a wizard, who was sharpening his claws and licking his whiskers. It was the Menace, chattering cat. Together, the crowd shouted at me, "Bubble, bubble, bubble, you're really in trouble." All the witches began to fight about what to do with me. "Let's make a mouse suit with swamp rice and side maggots. Let's have him clean all the toilets in the kingdom." I always wanted a pet. He could be a house mouse. I would keep him in a cage. He could be my hair mouse and shampoo, my stinky hair with a slug shampoo. He could wash dishes as the Wicked Witch Cafe. Menace yelled, "I'm the one who should handle him. I'm a cat, so I'll eat him. Yum." Eventually, Grosselda got control of the crowd by shrieking at the top of his lungs, "Quiet! Everyone, only I shall speak because I'm in charge here." All the witches quieted down even though I heard them complaining about the bossy head witch being too big for a pointy hat. Grosselda didn't seem to notice. She announced that there would be a witch competition. Whoever turned me into the most original, disgusting thing would win. All the witches rejoiced. Yes, this is going to be fun. That rodent wouldn't recognize his own fur when I'm done. Menace was the only one grumbling unhappily. What a shame. Wasting so much tender mouse meat, he sulked. One after the other, the witches stood on a platform and yelled out magic spells. Poor me. Over and over they transformed me. First I was small, then I was huge, then I was hairy, then I went and was covered in feathers. In the end, the biggest fool of them all, Witch Nia, performed the final transformation. She waved her magic wand and then covered it with a worm and fat and yelled, "Scurrying mouse, dumb as a flea, become a bat for all to see." In a few moments, I was transformed into a tiny bat with fairy wings. It was quite disturbing being a bat. I even scared myself. At the point, Grosselda shouted, "That's enough. The competition is over. We need to decide who won." Of course, all the witches began to shriek, "I won!" "No, I did." "Don't be ridiculous. I'm the clear winner." Menace continued to meow. "Give him to me. I will turn him into a roast mouse. Try it. You'll like it." Right at that moment, I realized one positive thing about being a bat. I had wings, which mean I could fly. Trying not to raise suspicion, I gave my new wings a tentative flap. They worked. I was lifting up into the air. Then I noticed an open window near the ceiling. I flew like a pro to the small opening. Okay, I'll be honest. I flapped along like a lame duck. Who knew wings were so hard to work? While I was flying, the witches continued to argue about who won the contest. I was thrilled. No one seemed to pay attention to me. I flapped and flapped and flapped. I was definitely gaining a new appreciation for flying creatures. By the time I reached the small window, I was sweating from my little webbed wings to my little bat feet. Still, I took a deep breath and flew out of the sky. Ah, freedom. Only then did the witches realize I was missing. "The rat is flying away!" I heard them shout. "You should have been watching him. That was your job." I wasn't surprised those witches would blame one another. Witches love to point the finger when there's a problem. What an evil bunch. "I'm here," I squeaked, spotting the Healy dragon in the distance. Luckily for me, the dragon heard me and headed in my direction. Unluckily for me, Griselda was right on my tail. I mean my wing. She began yelling at the other witches. "Quickly, fools! Turn that bat back into a mouse!" A moment later, my bat wings disappeared, and I fell and fell. Thank goodness the Healy dragon was already positioned underneath me. I fell straight into the net and scrambled back into the Healy dragon. Phew! What a fright! I was so happy to be away from those evil witches and back from the scribble hopper and a clever chameleon. As the Healy dragon headed back towards the kingdom of fairies at full speed, we cheered. "Hooray for the Healy dragon! Hooray for Healy beans! Hooray for horrible stink!" I know it may seem odd to cheer for the horrible stink, but if being stinky made the Healy dragon go faster, it was all for it. Before long, we could see the sparkling spires of Crystal Castle. What a masterific sight! The Healy dragon spiraled down towards the Healing Dragon landing pad, where the dragons who were in charge of flights were frantically trying to clear the area. After a bit, he slowed down his wings with one turn, landed gently on the pad. The mini dragons flapped their little wings and cheered. What a perfect landing! I stumbled off the giant gold dragon and stayed up the shimmering castle. George Blossom's husband greeted us, along with a friend Blue Rider and Solitaire, Blossom's brother. The fairy maids of the Queen were with them, along with her sister Sproutness, the 7 fairy advisors, and an elderly fairy. The fairies stood together, wringing their hands with concern. "Poor Blossom, it's terrible. What happened? What will we do now? Kidnapped?" George cleared a path for us. "Hurry, the Queen is not doing well. The royal doctor, the gnome, MD, is with her." We crossed Crystal Castle and reached the Queen's quarters. When we reached Blossom's quarters, the Queen was laying on her bed. She didn't look great. I mean, usually the Lady of Peace has a smile on her face and a sparkle in her eye. Now she just stared ahead blankly. I tried not to make a scene, but when I looked at her, I started blubbering like a baby mouselet. Oh, how embarrassing. How can a fairy get sick? Fairies have very long and peaceful lives. They don't get sick. They cannot be hurt. The only thing that can make them sick is true evil, especially if it is directed towards a small and offenseless creature, like Blossom's child. When I finally got it together, I managed to speak out. "My Queen, how can I help you? I'm not the bravest mouse on the block, but maybe there's something I could do." Blossom tried to smile, but she couldn't. Instead, she whispered, "My friend, they've kidnapped my newborn baby, and now my kingdom is being threatened by the Dark Shadow." Before I could respond, Clever Chameleon stepped towards. He began reading about the Dark Shadow prophecy. When the Dark Shadow does appear, a treasure is stolen, replaced with fear. Then a bright guardian you must find, he who is smart, brave, and kind. With a powerful sword and precious gem, he must conquer the shadow to breathe again. "Never fear," Queen Blossom the Chameleon said. "The prophecy explains what needs to be done. You see, the most precious treasure that has been stolen is Princess Winglet, and the powerful sword is Luminous. The only one who can help destroy the Dark Shadow is the Bright Guardian. He is the one who can draw the sword." Then he passed me the Sword of Light and ordered, "Student, draw the sword." Without any trouble, I drew the sword. Yep, I know it's hard to believe that I, Geronimo Stilton, was the legendary Bright Guardian. The fairies gasped. "Oh!" I took a deep breath and tried to show Blossom I was a mouse fit for the job. First, I bowed before her and said, "Don't worry, my Queen. I promise on my honor that I would do everything in my power to find little Winglet. First, though, I need to figure out who stole her." I scratched my head, and then I said, "Ahem. I will begin by examining the room where Winglet was sleeping." So I need a magnifying glass. Immediately, Scribblehopper croaked out of my request. Get him a magnifying glass, one servant told another, who told another, until the last servant arrived, announcing, I've got the glass, I've got the glass. From the way he was carrying on, you would have thought that he had just won a lifetime supply of chunky cheese chews. As soon as I got my paws on the magnifying glass, I raced to little Winglet's room. There, an elderly fairy stepped forward and said, I am Moonflower, Princess Winglet's nurse. Let me give you a tour. I followed the nurse around the room, which was every child's dream. There were twinkling lights, a rocking horse, stuffed animals, a gorgeous bassinet, books, and more. The only thing missing was the princess. My eyes filled with tears, and for a long while I couldn't manage to look for any clues. Then I gathered my strength. No more crying, I told myself. I needed to find out who could be so evil as to kidnap the princess. I started examining everything with a magnifying glass. I looked at the carpets, the curtains, the paintings, the furniture, the ornaments, and the decorations. There was even a statue of Scribblehopper. How strange. Meanwhile, Scribblehopper was shouting out suggestions, yelling in my ear. Defender, did you look behind the doors, and under the rugs, and inside the closets? Huh? Trust my frog's instincts. Something here doesn't add up. I tried to ask the frog to be quiet with all that croaking. Who could concentrate? But he got offended and yelled in my ear once again. I am giving you precious advice. But if you, Defender, don't want to hear it, I will keep quiet. If things get worse, it's your own fault. It was then that I noticed marks on the windowsill with a magnifying glass. I took a better look. It seemed like they were left by something pointy and sharp. Could they have been made by sharp, pointy metal claws? Next I saw that there were copper splinters stuck in the wood, and a tear in the blue silk and bassinet. Could the tear have been made by something like a beak? Last but not least, between the embroidered sheets, I found a black feather. A black crow feather. Holy cheese balls, I figured out who it was. All the clues pointed to predator bird. It has to be Crowbar the Cruel. Yes, it was him. He is the one who kidnapped the princess, but there's something that I don't understand. Who opened the window to let Crowbar in? Someone is a traitor. But who? I returned to Blossom's quarters and shared my terrible discovery. Someone has betrayed you, my queen, but who? Who would let Crowbar in? Did anyone have access to little Winglet's room? Blossom gasped at the news. She explained that her trusted nurse, Moonflower, had access to the moon. But anyone could have entered secretly and opened the window, she said sadly. The nurse burst into tears. Oh, I would never forgive myself. I took a nap and rocking chair, and when I opened my eyes, the crib was empty. She sobbed. What a tragedy. It was all my fault. Blossom tried to console her. My dear Moonflower, who could have imagined that there was a traitor among us? You gave in to sleep, but it could happen to anyone who is to watch over a tiny baby, she soothed. The more Blossom spoke, the angrier she became. Just thinking of Crowbar and the traitor who let her in to breathe a little strength in her. With some trouble, she sat up in bed, and then stood up and shaky legs. No one is to leave the castle, she ordered. Bright Guardian, I beg you, continue the investigation. We must find the traitor and interrogate him. That's the first thing we need to do before we confront the wicked sister, Wither, and her husband, Crowbar. The castle doors were locked so that left no one to leave. Suddenly, the lookouts on the highest tower of the castle sounded their horns warning to danger. Then a guard ran into the room. Your Majesty, it's an emergency. The dark shadow is about to reach Crystal Castle. I ran to the window and saw a terrifying spectacle. The dark shadow skimmed the slopes of the rock on which Crystal Castle stood. Holy cheeseball, we were in a lot of danger. Blossom made her way to the ceremony room. Luckily, she had her husband, George, to keep her upright. Twisted Cattles, the queen looked wobbly still. When she sat down on her throne, her voice rose confidently. All those who seek protection from the dark shadow shall be let into these walls. We will, of course, take care of our subjects, but remember, no one may leave the castle. There's a traitor among us, she declared. Immediately, the doors of the castle opened and a long line of inhabitants of the kingdom of fantasy crowded around to enter. As soon as the room was full of creatures, Blossom turned to Clever Chameleon. My dear friend, what do you suggest now we do to stop the dark shadow? There's only one thing we can do, the chameleon said. He pulled out the scroll of the dark prophecy and began reading it aloud. The words buzzed around my head, but at this point all I heard was blah 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 blah. Precious gem. I was confused. So the guardian, which I had to find at the gym, right? And where would I find it? Where do I find the dark shadow's house or cave? Oh, this sounds pretty dangerous. Are you sure it's a good idea? I started blabbering. At this, Blue Wing the mini dragon bit my ear. Don't be a fool, Defender, he whispered. Of course it will be dangerous. You will be going out on a deadly mission. Not out for a slice of pizza. My stomach rumbled at the mention of pizza. Oh, what I wouldn't do to go back to New Bao City, munching on a tasty slice of pizza wrap. The precious gem is none other than the powerful crystal gem, the chameleon explained. Blossom clapped her hands and 7 fairies appeared, carrying a metal chest. It was the trunk of the 7 virtues. I opened up the 6 trunks. One of them were gold, one was copper, one was bronze, one was steel, one was silver, and one was rosewood. Then, with trembling paws, I lifted the last tiny crystal chest. Inside, I found the crystal gem. Its pure light lit up the whole room. In fact, it was so bright I had to close my eyes so I wasn't blinded by it. As I lifted the gem, the sound of the 1,000 happy thoughts filled the air. What a powerful stone! Blossom put her hands on my shoulder. Dear friend, you truly are a bright guardian. Today, you have been entrusted with an enormous responsibility. The crystal gem is extremely powerful and holds all of our fairy powers. Unfortunately, if it gets lost or destroyed, or worse, if it ends up in the hands of evil, our kingdom will be destroyed forever. A chill ran down my fur. The fate of the whole kingdom on my paws? I was a nervous wreck. To make things even worse, Clever Chameleon pulled me aside to warn me about the evil allies of Wither, who would be tracking my every move. Even though I was shaking like a leaf, I tried to keep it together. So, where do I need to bring this crystal gem? I asked in the most calm voice. Clever Chameleon shook his head. There's only one person who can tell you. Mal the Magnificent, and his ball of marbles. You will leave at once for the Sparkle Rock Castle, the Healer Dragon. I'll go too. Keep an eye on him, Blue Wing added. If he goes, I'm going. I needed to take notes on what happens. Scribble Hopper insisted. I knew the mini dragon and the frog would probably get on my nerves, but I was relieved I would not be alone. Scary missions are even scarier when there's no one to hear you. But just as I made my way to the Healer Dragon, the castle horns began to sound. Danger, danger! The dark shadow is at the doors. The lookouts called. Squeak! Poor us! It took us no time for it to reach us. Immediately, everyone in the room flew into a panic. We're done for, they cried, but Clive got control. The chameleon struck the cane on the ground 3 times and ordered, Silence! The chameleon continued. Inhabitants of the kingdom of fantasy, please listen. All is not lost. The only hope of saving the Crystal Castle is to move it immediately to the Bright Mountains. The Dark Shadow has not reached there yet. Then he turned to Blossom and asked, My queen, I know that you are exhausted, but do you feel capable of carrying out the most difficult spell of your life, the Lightness spell? She responded decidedly, Yes, if all the fairies of the kingdom unite their wands with me around the crystal gem, we can do it. The fairies all gathered around the crystal gem, pointed their wands at it, and we all sang together. A fountain of bright sparkles flowed from the wand that had united in one great column of light that rose towards the sky. Then suddenly the sparks stopped for a moment. Silence fell over the great ceremony room, where everyone looked in astonishment. What next? Suddenly the castle began to tremble and shake, first right, then left, until finally it lifted from the ground as light as a crystal butterfly. Then everything in the castle began to float, weightless. Chairs, plates, utensils, books, pillows, and beds too were even lifted up into the air. Blossom urged me to leave. Please go before it's too late, she cried. All the inhabitants of the castle stared at me expectantly. This was the big moment. I had to show everyone I was courageous enough to do the job. No problem, I started. Then I tried to bow before the queen, but I ended up doing a very awkward somersault instead. Everyone in the crowd began to whisper. The bright guardian isn't very bright. Oh, how humiliating. Next I tried to grab the crystal gem, but it slipped through my paws and my head hit the ceiling. Bang! I heard the crowd whisper again. Yup, he's a bit of a dim bulb, the bright guardian. Finally, I managed to grab the gem and I stuffed it in the silk bag. Then I hung around my neck for safekeeping. I said goodbye to Blossom and all the fairy court and then floated over to the dragon landing pad. Little did I know, a lightning spell didn't work at the landing pad and I suddenly hit the ground with a thud. I heard the crowd whisper once again, he's dim, very dim. Embarrassed, I climbed into the cabin and the Healer Dragon took off. The Healer Dragon took off like a shot. I turned back and watched the crystal castle flying away. Even though everyone was picking on me, I hoped they had a safe trip to the Bright Mountains. Suddenly, as he flew, the Healer Dragon called out, "Hang on tight!" Then he darted forward and before I could say a squeak, I was floating above the Green County. We passed over the circle of the 12 Green Guardians who immediately opened to let us through, because they already knew of our arrival, and in a flash we were standing before the doors of a Sparkle Rock. A thick cloud of enchanted light and scented fog surrounded the bright castle. The fog hid the castle from unwanted enemies. As I approached the fog, suddenly lifted as if by some spell, and finally I could see before my eyes the light walls of the castle sparkling in the sun. The white and gold flag of the bright empire waved from the top of the tallest tower. It was almost like the flag was waving hello to me. Look, Mal increased the amount of magic fog. That means there's danger, also threatening his bright empire, Scribblehopper remarked. We arrived at the door of the Sparkle Rock Castle where a night blocked our way. But when he had a good look at me, he scooped me up in a bone-crushing hug. Oof! Welcome, fearless knight, he cried. Then he added, or shall I call you Bright Guardian? Or he who must venture on a desperate endeavour, and no one knows if he will return or die. I am happy to see you, even if I fear it's not for long. It was my dear friend Ranger from Ghost Guardian. I tried to fool my friend in all of the training I had done with Clever Chameleon. I told him all about how I achieved the blue belt on a balanced path, a prestigious honor. The more I talked, the more confident I began to feel. After all, with my new skills, I was more prepared than ever. Unfortunately, when I finished speaking, the Ghost Guardian was staring at my pretty eyes. I hate to burst your bubble, friend, he began, but I've seen many aspiring heroes who had been convinced they could beat it, but they were all sucked up by the dark shadow. I turned pale. They were sucked up, you say, by the dark shadow? What exactly do you mean? They were sucked up. The Ghost Guardian realized that he had said too much and stopped himself. Well, let's just pretend I didn't say anything. I didn't mention anything about fallen heroes or being sucked up by the dark shadow, or Mal the Magnificent. Well, I will explain everything, he muttered. At that point, I was really thinking of doing an about-face of turning back. You know, kicking up my paws and skipping it out of there. Who wants to get sucked up by a dark shadow, or light shadow, or any shadow for the matter? Holy cheese balls! My whiskers were trembling with fright. I turned to Scribblehopper, hoping he could calm me down. Twisted cattails, did you hear that? How am I going to take on the dark shadow? I'm not a hero. I'm not a fraidy mouse. I'm a total fraidy mouse. Maybe I should just leave now, I wailed, turning towards the door. The frog grabbed me by the tail and yanked me hard. Forget it, Guardian. You have no choice. It's your job, he croaked harshly. Blue Wing, the mini dragon, bit me in my ear, yelling, Pull yourself together, Defender. If you don't, I'm going to claw Clever Chameleon. You can't refuse your mission. Remember that promise you made me, to have courage and to honor the blue belt. Oh, please don't tell me, Master Chameleon, I interrupted, chewing my whiskers. What could I do? A promise was a promise. I had to try my best, even if I ended up a dead rat. I turned decisively towards the Ranger, the Ghost Guardian. Take me to Mal the Magnificent, I squeaked. Ranger turned on the metal heels of the armor, squeaking like an old rusty door, and headed inside Sparkle Rock Castle. But instead of taking us to Mal's quarters, he was down a secret passage and went lower and lower and lower, down the strangest stairs I had ever seen. It was Chatterley's stairway. Those strange stairs seemed to never end, and since they were magic stairs in a magic castle that belonged to a real wizard, they kept moving, revealing new stairs and new passageways. As they walked, the stairs began to chuckle. How strange. Meanwhile, as we went down, and down, upward on those magic stairs, I could hear some strange organ music. It sounded like a waterfall, and a herd of galloping unicorns, and a fire-breathing dragon, all at the same time. Where was this music coming from? The ghost guardian saw me puzzled expression and pointed a large oak door. In case you're wondering, the music is coming from there. Behind the door is the magic fog factory. For a few days now, Mal has been locked up in there, making an endless supply of magic fog, he explained. Then he lowered his voice and whispered, based on the Magnificent is playing, I would say that the situation is serious, really serious. If I were you, I'd be very careful not to upset him. I knocked on the door and entered. What an incredible sight! I found myself in an enormous room full of strange machines and equipment in the center. Now the Magnificent was seated before a giant organ with golden pipes. He was banging away at the keys. The more he hit them, the more fog came out. Ahem, Mr. Magnificent, I'm sorry to disturb you. I began, hoping against hope he wouldn't be too upset. He stopped playing suddenly, finishing with a dark, ominous chord. Instantly, the puffs of a fog stopped. Mal threw his hands in the air and shrieked, Who dares to disturb me when I'm creating my magic music? Who? I gave specific orders that I didn't want to be disturbed. With a trembling voice, I babbled, actually, it's me, the bright guardian. Those words. Mal turned around. When he saw me, he was giving me a warm, wizardly hug. For the magic wand, you should have said it was you. I've been waiting for you. Then he looked me up and down. So I heard you've been trained by Master Chameleon. Who knows? Maybe you're not as hopeless case after all. Anyways, we'll soon find out. And a dangerous mission awaits you. If you manage to come back alive, then you will have become a true hero. And if not, well then, I guess you're still a hopeless case. My fur turned beet red, but I still need to ask Mal some questions about my upcoming journey. Before I could begin, though, he interrupted me. So let me guess, you're here to ask for my help. Isn't that always the case? As soon as there's a problem, everyone comes to me. Mal this, Mal that. Seriously, it's enough to drive a wizard up the wall, he complained. After ranting and raving for 10 hours, he suddenly announced, Oh, you almost made me forget, it's tea time. He waved his wand, and in a flash, a table covered with a white tablecloth, a china tea set, a silver tray full of pastries, and 2 stuffed armchairs appeared. It seemed like a pretty odd time to be drinking tea, considering we were in the middle of a serious crisis, but Mal insisted. You are wrong, Mouse, he lectured. It's exactly what the situation is serious. That you should stop and reflect calmly, and a nice cup of tea is just what you need. Mal began sipping his tea and munching on the pastries, so I did the same. As I slurped my tea, a sense of calm came over me. When I bit into the cheddar pastry, I almost forgot about the scary mission ahead of me. Everything really is better with cheddar. When we had finished eating, I asked Mal if he knew how I could complete my mission. He nodded, looking into the distance, but he didn't say a word. I waited and waited. At last, when I was about to pull out all my fur and out in frustration, he spoke. Of course, there's only one way to know, he said. Let's consult the ball of marbles. The magic fog production cannot stop, so I consult the ball. You will have to play the magic music on the music organ. Got it, Mouse? But I don't know how to play the organ, I muttered. Mal lifted his shoulders unconcerned. Well, Mouse, there's a famous saying among the wizards of the Bright Empire. Do you know what it is? I was silent, and Mal thundered. If you don't know how to play, you piddle. And do you know why? Curious, I muttered. Why? He chuckled. You'll understand soon. He pulled a large lever at the base of the organ. First there was a grinding noise and a trapdoor opened in the ground. Then a strange, not a really strange, golden bicycle appeared. Mal exclaimed, Since you don't know how to play, you have to pedal. Better put those paws on the pedal now or sparkle. Rock Castle will be devoured by the dark shadow. Then left to look in the ball of marbles with the bright cloak waving behind him. I climbed on the bicycle and began to pedal. I pedaled and pedaled and pedaled, but not a single puff of fog came out of the golden pipes. What could I do? It was then that I heard a strange little voice. Bright Guardian, you're really not the most athletic mouse, are you? A voice said. I jumped. Who was that? I looked around with my eyes wide open, but I didn't see anyone. The tiny voice continued with a little laugh. I'm right here in front of you. My name is Moscutina, the Moscutinese, the first music elf. I'm the one who runs the magic fog factory. You don't know how to play? Oh, only then did I see in front of me was a tiny creature who looked like a tiny mosquito fairy. Don't worry, said Mosquito Tina. I will help you. I'll place the keys while you press on the pedal. Right then, the tiny creature began jumping around on the keys, making happy-sounding music. Finally, tufts of magic fog flew out of the organ pipes. Mosquito jumped from one key to the next, playing and singing, sometimes carefree and happy, and other times slow and dreamy. Meanwhile, I pedaled and pedaled, and from the golden pipes of that strange organ, small tufts of clouds emerged. I was so excited, but Mosquito shook her head. This magic fog isn't enough to even hide that moat around Sparkle Rock, not to mention the entire kingdom. I'll ask my sister for help. Before I could say, squeak, Mosquito whistled, and immediately 6 more mosquitoes began to dance around all together. I stared at them with admiration. Even though they were so tiny, they were super energetic. In fact, just looking at them made me dizzy. Still, I tried giving myself a pep talk. You can do it. You can do it, I told myself. Right at that moment, Mal strode back into the room. Let's get out of here. It's that grump Mal. The mosquitoes cried, slipping out the door before he spotted them. Mouse strode into the room, looking pleased. Well done, Mouse. Sparkle Rock Castle is completely hidden, he exclaimed. Then he added, were you the only one who made all of this magical fog? I decided it would be best to tell him the truth, so I admitted that Mosquitina and her sisters helped me. Mouse smiled. Very good, Mouse. Honesty is the best policy. I imagine that Mosquitina came because my niece, Wolfie, asked her to. But that's another story for another time. I came to let you know that the Board of Marbles has confirmed that the situation is very serious. As Mal led me through corridors of the castle, up and down staircases, past little and big rooms, I noticed that the whole place seemed to be empty. Yup, there was not one single fairy or wizard or warlock or creature anywhere in the castle. How strange. Even though Mal prefers to spend his time alone, the castle is always full of life, and creatures always coming and going. When we passed by the rooms of the magic school, I noticed that there was absolute silence. Even the front of the hall of the Great Magic Council was deserted. What was happening? I was dying to ask Mal, but when I started, he shot me a look. Then he held his finger in his lips and motioned for me to be quiet. In a low voice he cautioned, Listen, Mouse, even the walls have ears. But don't get your tail in a twist. I'll explain everything in a bit. Just follow me and keep your mouth shut. At last, we stood in front of a ball of marbles. Mal raised his magic wand and hit the ball 3 times. The ball grew enormous, opened up, and we went inside. As soon as I entered the room, my friends ran to greet me. Wolfie wrapped me in an enormous hug. It's so good to see you, Guardian. You are our favorite hero, she said, with a grin. Olvia, Roxy, Foxy, and Bertina followed her lead, and the 7 wild brothers followed me. Before I knew it, I found myself in the center of a massive group hug. Part of me felt great, and part of me felt squished. Luckily, Mal interrupted the happy hugging. Did I mention my rodent bones can be very delicate? Anyways, where was I? Ah, yes. Mal explained that I needed to be careful about talking in public about the dark shadow of my mission. If Blossom has been betrayed in her own palace, that means that Wither could have spies anywhere. We sent the students from magic school home, and each wizard returned to their own territory to defend it from the dark shadow. This is a disaster, I squeaked, turning to Mal. Blossom told me you could advise me. Do you have any ideas? Suddenly, I remembered about the crystal gem. Maybe that was the answer. I took the sack that held the crystal gem from around my neck and pulled it out. A marvelous golden light reflected off the walls of the ball, and everything exclaimed in amazement. Oh, the crystal gem. Incredible. Blossom told me that in this gem there is a concentrate of all the power and all the goodness of all the fairies. It's the only thing that can stop the dark shadow. But where do I need to take it? I promised the queen that I would find little Winglet, even though it may kill me, I squeaked. Right then, the Wild brothers, Wolfie and all her friends gathered around me. Don't worry, Bright Defender, we will come with you, she said. Mal nodded quietly. Yes, The mouse cannot go alone. Let's face it, he's not exactly brimming with courage and confidence, he smirked. Well, I started to feel insulted. Mel cut me off. The ranger, the ghost, the guardian will soon come with you for protection. And Solo, the solitary wizard, will also go with you. He knows all the mysteries of the kingdom of fantasy. He pointed to a silent young man standing in a corner who was wrapped in a large dark cloak. He bowed his head but didn't say a word. Besides, this group now also agreed to let me bring Scribblehopper and Blue Wing. Then he said, "You must go to the volcano of the fiery abyss. That's where Wither makes the dark shadow," thanks to Nebula. Suddenly, someone began to pull my whiskers and yell, "Can I come too? I was Mosquitina, the music elf." Mal rolled his eyes, but in the end he said, "Alright, you can go too." I was wondering how he would get all the volcano. I wonder how he would all get to the volcano when Mal tapped the ball of marbles. "This is your mode of transportation," he announced. Now I was really confused. Did the ball turn into a bus, a magic ball bus? Mal interrupted my thoughts. "I will tell you all a secret. The ball of marbles can become big or small and fly in command." He touched the ball and sang, "I can go most anywhere. It's like I can fly through the air. I just need a magic spell that is clear and sung quite well. Sing it with a true heart, with feelings that come just from you. But if sincere you cannot be, beware, trouble you will see." Mal handed me a scroll with the chant printed on it. "Don't forget, Mouse, you need to sing it with a pure heart, or you're doomed," he warned. Did I have a pure heart? I always tried to do the right thing. Well, except for the time I pretended I had a stomachache during my school soccer tournament. The other team was huge. I was scared for my life. I was still thinking about the game as I practiced my skills with Mosquitina. Finally, after hours and hours of practice, the music after cleared. We were all in perfect pitch. I was relieved. Don't get me wrong, I'm not tone deaf, but you won't catch me on the new Mouse City Got Talent anytime soon. Before we left, Mal reminded us again to sing with a pure heart. He handed me a pair of strange sunglasses. "These are enchanted glasses," he said. "You may need them. Watch out for what you think you see. Not everything is as it seems." Eventually, Mosquitina gave us a la, and we began to sing with one single voice. Within minutes, the eyes of the 4 dragons that held the ball lit up. Strong rays of the blue light shot out from the dragon's eyes, and we were surrounded by magic light. "Have a good trip," Mal called. Then I felt a really strong tingling sensation from the tip of my ears to the tip of my tail. There was a flash of light, and poof! We were transported far, far, far away. I stood up. Yes, my tail was bruised, but I was alive. I stumbled onto my feet. First I checked to see if I was all in one piece. Then I checked that the crystal gem was still in this little sack around my neck. Only after that did I look around as I rubbed my head. I thought I would be at the top of the volcano of the fiery abyss, but instead I just saw lots of water and dense greyish fog that went slowly along like a pack of snakes. "Holy cheese balls!" I exclaimed. "Where's the fiery abyss?" So the ghost guardian muttered gloomily, "I think we're lost forever in the swamp. I knew we shouldn't trust those magical modes of transportation. I tried, and true method would have been better. Like a good old dragon, or why not even a unicorn, or just a foot?" I was worried. Maybe I'm just a horrible singer, or maybe I really am tone deaf, or maybe my heart isn't pure enough, I whined. Mosquitina pulled my whiskers. "Don't be silly, Guardian. Your voice was perfect pitch," she assured me, crossing her little mosquito hands. "Mosquito's honor." Whoopi nodded in agreement. "She's right, and if your heart wasn't pure, Blossom wouldn't have chosen you for this mission." At that moment, I noticed Roxy Foxy staring at the others intently. "Someone here might very well be the problem," she muttered softly. "I wonder if there's a traitor among us." "That's enough, Chatter," Scribblehopper insisted, jumping up. He looked around and clapping one web around his hand and head. He announced, "I know where we are. If my frog memory is right, we are in Salvia Swamp. Or maybe this is Buggy Bog. Or maybe I have no idea." Solo, who went up to that point, hadn't said one word, announced sternly, "From this is desperation. Swamp, I can tell you because of the rotten agar stench and putrid mud. If we stay here too long, desperation will come over us and we won't be able to move. Let's get out of here." He grabbed his satchel and yelled, "Follow me. I'll get us out of here." But we have to hurry. I quickly followed Sorrow, but every step I took, my heart became sadder. My steps were heavier, and the bag with the crystal gem around my neck felt like a 10-ton boulder. Now I knew why they called it Desperation Swamp. Vultures circled around our heads, singing a creepy song. As we walked, Solo yelled out instructions. Don't stop. Don't listen to the vultures. Don't walk in zigzags. Don't look down. Don't look up. Thunder and cattails. What was next? Don't breathe? Scribble Hopper was the only one who looked at ease. He jumped up and down, playing in the mud. Croak. Why is everyone so worried? He snorted. It's just a little mud. I was surprised that my friend didn't seem to sense the evilness of the hard swamp. But I told myself if but I told myself it was just that he was a frog. Don't all frogs love swamps? Several times Scribble Hopper offered to carry the pouch with the crystal gem. He didn't seem tired and hopped along like he didn't have a care in the world. How strange. Still, I was too exhausted to think about it. As we walked, Olivia, Wolfie, and Roxy Foxy chatted quietly. I wish we could use our magic. Then we could escape this place, Olivia said sadly. Solo nodded. The witch would definitely find us if we used magic, he agreed. Solo signaled for us to stop. He pointed to an island distance, where a really tall volcano was shooting steams of lava. Dense smoke that smelled like rotting fish polluted the air. Well, I hate to tell you, Mouse, but that's where we need to go, Solo announced. That is the legendary fiery abyss. I gulped at my knees. Buckle and fight. I want to live, I sobbed uncontrollably. Blue Wing smacked me with his wing. Pull yourself together, or at least pretend, he whispered in my ear. I swallowed as hard as I could and stared at the stretch of restless black sea with tall waves that separated us from the island. How will we get to the island? I don't see any boats. I don't want to rust my armor, the ghost guardian remarked. Scribble Hopper had an idea. It seemed a forbidden legendary sea serpent with silver blue scales lives in the sea. If we can find him, maybe he will help us get to the island. I was very worried. If Ophidian is a legendary creature, how will we find him? And how will we convince him to take us? Most of all, are we sure that he really exists? I squeaked. Scribble Hopper crossed his arms, offended. Are you doubting my words? He croaked. I quickly apologized as I explained that sometimes legends don't always tell the truth. The whole truth, nothing but the truth. Just then Roxy Foxy clapped her hands together. I have an idea, she shouted. If he likes mussels, maybe we would lure him over with one. That's a great idea, Wolfie, Bertina, and Olivia cheered. We call him out of the sea with a mussel, and that way we can talk to him. I looked around and muttered, but there aren't any mussels here. The girls shrugged. No problem, we can make a fake mussel. Come on, everyone, let's get started. We worked all day to make a fake mussel shell that really looked real. Still, the ghost guardian shook his head. Something is missing, he observed. I know. You need a mollusk that's orange and appetizing. I think the defender would be perfect. Why me? I protested. But everyone agreed I was the perfect mouse for the job, because I would tremble in fear just like a quivering mollusk. How embarrassing. Nevertheless, I let them wrap me in one, and then Von Wild Brothers orange cloaks. I tucked myself in the mussel and waited for Ophidian. An enormous creature with white scales emerged from the dark sea. He seemed to stare at me like he was starving. I tried to free myself from my mussel costume, but I had trembled so much that I was trapped in my orange fabric like a fly in spiderweb. Please don't eat me, I shrieked. Ophidian looked at me with a quizzical air. Maybe you're a mouse or maybe a mollusk, but you smell like a mollusk, you're orange like a mollusk, and shaped like a mollusk. So I say, you're a mollusk. Now stop making such a fuss. I'm going to eat you, and that's that, he insisted. He opened his giant mouth, and he made a huge gulp. Rip! I cut open my disguise from the inside and jumped out, yelling, Look, I have ears like a mouse, a tail like a mouse, paws like a mouse, and even whiskers like a mouse. Make no mistake, I'm a mouse. He seemed confused. How strange. I've never seen a mouse who wears armor and smells like a mollusk, he mumbled. I held up my paws. Please don't eat me. I'm the bright defender. Blossom sent me. I have a mission to carry out, I cried desperately. Right then my friends came to my defense. They explained that I was the bright guardian. Together we were called the gem team. Too bad the serpent was not convinced. While it's all very interesting, he mused, I've heard talk of the gem team. a group of chosen guardians by Blossom. But if you're telling the truth, where's the gem? Well, this is what the moment of truth was. I had been instructed never to show anyone the crystal gem. If I did, I could mean the destruction of the entire kingdom of fantasy. So I took a deep breath and said, I cannot show it to you, or anything else, or anyone else. I promised I would never endanger it. I was sure Ophidian would devour me at any moment, and I could already imagine his enormous teeth biting through my tail. But instead, after a long while, I heard a strange grumbling. Then I heard something very much like a roar. But it wasn't a roar. It was Ophidian's powerful laugh. As soon as he calmed down, the serpent exclaimed, I haven't laughed that much in years, no in centuries, no millennia. Then he became serious again. But I respect you, Mouse, because even if you were scared, you passed the test, he added. My eyes flew open. Test? What test? I squeaked. He smiled. I believe you. You are the bright guardian. Only the true guardian would have refused to show me the gem, and risked his own life to defend it. So I will not eat you. It's your lucky day, he chuckled. I let out a loud sigh. Then I gathered my courage and asked, Can I give you a lift? We need to reach the fiery abyss. Ophidian slithered quickly around us to the shore. All aboard, he yelled, sticking out his golden fin as if it was a ladder, so we could all get on. He climbed up onto his back and then held on tight. It wasn't easy. Sea serpents were slippery. Hold on, we're off to the fiery abyss, and that's how, with wind in our whiskers, we sailed on the back of Ophidian to solo played his guitar and sang a song he dedicated to the great sea creature. Maybe, just maybe, we could save the kingdom of fantasy after all. Ophidian sliced up the waves as he swam super fast. He moved his enormous fan to create a wake of foam behind him. Once in a while, a wave that was higher than the others came along and washed us over, drenching us with water. Besides being scared half to death, I was quite seasick. Oh, what a nightmare. Eventually, the island of fiery abyss grew closer and closer. Right away, my heart began pounding at the terrifying sight. The beach was made thick and dark and slimy as a sewer rat, and the stinking smoke from the volcano left me gagging for fresh air. Finally, Ophidian pulled up into the beach and rolled off his back. Trembling on the ground, cheese nibblers, I was frazzled, furry mess. Then I noticed the ground was shaking beneath my paws. It was an enormous earthquake, so strong I had trouble staying on my feet. Scribblehopper croaked, If my frog memory serves me right, we have landed on the island of the fiery abyss. There's only one little thing we need to do, one minor detail, just a little nothing, a minuscule task, a teensy tiny particular, really. His voice trailed off. What? What is it? I squeaked impatiently. Finally, after 1 billion years, the frog explained that we needed to climb over something called the 7 Wallamars. They were called Wallamars because they were the nightmarish wars. I turned pale. Nightmares in what way? Solo, who knows all the mysteries of the kingdom, said they're really, really dangerous. The first war is made up of super stinky swamp troll mud. It's guarded by 6 super stinky trolls, and there are 6 other scary wars. Each one is worse than the last. Scribblehopper stared at me with his eyes half open. This sounds way too scary. I'm thinking we should give up. What do you think, Defender? Are you ready to go home? Before I had a chance to answer, the frog turned to the others and croaked. The Defender said that we won't be able to get past the War Mars, and we should go back home. Too bad. We lost. The Kingdom of Fantasy is lost. I couldn't believe my ears. What was Scribblehopper saying? I didn't say we should leave. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was scared, but I wasn't ready to give up on the Kingdom of Fantasy. I had promised the Queen Blossom would help. Scribblehopper huffed when I told him I wanted to continue with the mission. Fine, he muttered, we'll keep going. I was so surprised my old friend wasn't being more supportive, but I didn't have time to stop thinking about it. Solo was already headed down the path that led to the first war, and I raced to keep up. The stench was from the first war nearly knocked off my feet. I think I had an idea, Foxy proposed. We can use our capes to protect us against the disgusting troll sneezes. When she saw me holding my nose, she laughed. Sorry, Defender, the capes won't keep the stench away, but they're better than nothing. The stink was enough to make a grown mouse cry. Oh, why did I not think of a good pair of nose plugs on this journey? As we got closer, a giant wall of putrid green swamp mud, buzzing with thousands of giant biting horseflies, rose in front of us. Even worse, a row of hideous trolls stared down at us from the top of the wall, letting out torrents of gloopy wet sneezes. rat-munching rattlesnakes. Didn't anyone ever teach those trolls to use a tissue when you have to sneeze? The first warmer, I was still thinking about tissues when Solo screamed, "Here, Mouse, help me use this pointy tree trunk to break through the wall." Together we began blastering the wall. With 3 hard blows, we managed to make a humongous crack in the wall. "We did it!" everyone cried happily. Squeezing through the opening, the trolls were disappointed that we had managed to pass through one of the walls. "You passed the wall, but it's the last test. The others you will never pass. You will be stopped. You will be beaten, and the next wall you will be eaten." We ran away as fast as we could in the distance. We could see the second wall mark. It was a super tall wall made of starving carnivorous plants. How could we manage to pass it? Then Bernita remembered that she had some honey candies in her pocket. "I have an idea. We can feed the plants, and while they're eating candy, we'll try past them." The second wall mark. Luckily, the carnivorous plants loved their honey candies, and while they were busy chewing on them, we passed the wall and climbed through the thorny braided branches. Only when we were already at the other side did the other plants realize it was too late to stop us. We reached the third wall mark, and it was defended by an enormous fairy black spider. The web was super sticky, but we had no choice. We had to crawl under it. The guardian will have to distract the spiders to keep us from attacking us. "Why me?" I protested, but Scribblehopper smirked. "Because you're the bright guardian. It is your duty." A third warmer. Then he added in a nasty tone, "The spiders will find you very tasty, Defender. Your perfect mouse-sized appetizer." I couldn't believe my frog friend was willing to throw me to the sharks. I mean spiders. But he was right about one thing. I was the defender. So I did my best to distract the spiders. First, I did a little dance. Then I sang an annoying song. Then I stuck out my tongue. It worked. I slipped under the wall at the last second as the spiders crawled after me, furiously. "You escaped again, but you just wait. The witches are waiting, so don't be late. They are after your bones. They'll pick you up dry. It's the end for you. Good riddance. Goodbye." When we reached the next wall, I gasped. It was made of bones and surrounded by witches. The fourth warmer. Whoopi took one look at the witches and clapped her hands. "I got this one," she exclaimed, turning to her friend. "Girls, hold on to your mirrors. I know how to deal with this witch. They are super vain." The 4 friends stood in front of the wall with their mirrors and yelled, "Who wants to look at who's the ugliest of all? Who's the most horrendous? And who's the scariest?" Immediately, the witches began to fight, casting spells on one another as we passed undisturbed through a tiny door. By the time they realized we were already far gone, they yelled furiously, "You got past, but you will never finish last." The black fairies, "There are 33. No one is crueler. You shall see. They'll leave it to their violence to make you tremble and erase your grins." Before us stood the 5th warmer. It had sharp spires of swarm black fairies playing violin. Luckily, Solo had a plan. He led us to a hollow tree that was all twisted up like it had been struck by lightning. "This is the secret passage, known as Solitary Gardens of the Kingdom of Fantasy," he explained. He sang 3 notes of enchanted melody, and a second passage opened in the middle of the tree trunk. Sweet cheddar cheese rolls! What a welcoming sight! Filled with excitement, we raced down a long, dark passageway. In a flash, we were on the other side. The black fairies realized we had escaped, and in anger they broke the bows of their violins and screamed. The 6th wall mount was exactly as black as the fairies described it. It was a wall made of twisted branches, flapping around the wall with evil-looking black crows with copper beaks. This time Muscatina had a plan. "I know what to do," she declared. "We need to sing the secret lullaby together." To be honest, I felt a little self-conscious singing, but I did my best to stay in tune. In the end, the crows fell asleep. We climbed over the wall using a long rope. The crows woke up and cawed in unison. "Don't brag about this one, because next time you'll be done. The giants will smash and crush you, and when they finish you, you'll be through." The 7th warmer was the last and most dangerous one, because it's made of giants. But again, Mosquitina had a plan. They may be giants, but they don't have giant brains. In fact, they're quite dull. Then she flew up to one of the giant's head. He was snoozing, and she pulled out one of his hair. The giant became furious and thought that his neighbor had done it. 1 moment later, the giants had been fighting each other. We slipped between their enormous legs, making extra sure not to get crushed by their enormous feet, and fled. Cheese niblets! We were so excited we had passed all the warmers. Now there was no obstacle between us and the volcano of the fiery abyss. Everyone cheered, "Hooray for the gym team!" Still, I wasn't sure I should be happy or terrified. The volcano was super hot and dangerous. Rivers of hot lava were shooting out of it and let out dense clouds of dark shadow. What a terrifying place. Worried, I muttered, "Maybe we should hold off on celebrating. The volcano looks so scary." Meanwhile, the crystal gem seemed to get heavier and heavier around my neck. Scribblehopper put a paw on my shoulder and whispered, "Don't worry, Defender. I am here to help you. Your friend Scribblehopper understands you. Do you want me to help you carry that heavy crystal gem? That way you can rest," he offered. I responded kindly, "No thank you, Scribblehopper. I promised Blossom I wouldn't give the gem to anyone, and that I alone would take care of it. I can't break my promise." Scribblehopper puffed. "Whatever you say." We continued walking. With every step the crystal gem that I carried around my neck became heavier and heavier. It was right then that a breathless mini-dragon messenger arrived and announced, "Urgent message from the Guardian from the clever chameleon," and he read, "Careful, bright Guardian. Someone from the gym team will betray you. That's why I only trust you and those who are deserving. Don't judge those by what they say, but instead of what they do. Remember, the eyes are the gateway to the soul, and they can show you who really stands before you. Your master, clever chameleon." I was speechless. How could one of my friends betray me? Everyone said, "It's not me, Defender." I looked them in the eyes one by one. They all seemed sincere. But I had to keep in mind what Clever said. I was troubled and thoughtful. At sunset, we finally stopped to rest, and I fell right to sleep with a sad heart and my mind full of heavy thoughts. At midnight, Scribblehopper woke me up. "Betrayal! Wake up! Wake up! We need to get out of here at once," he croaked. "The other members of the team want to betray you?" "Huh? What? How? Why? When?" I stammered. "I heard them with my own ears," the frog insisted. "They were saying that they want to take the crystal gem." He continued with a mournful voice, "You're too good, too trusting, too naive. Basically, you're a fool. Luckily, I'm here to look out for you. I heard them with my own frog ears. They were having a secret meeting to take the crystal gem." I exclaimed, astonished. "Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Are you calling me a liar?" he yelled. "I'm offended. Look, see for yourself." He led me behind a cliff where I saw all the members of the gym team meeting around the fire. The wind brought me a few words of their whispered conversation. "Psst, wait, Jim, Tired, Guardian. We need to insist secretly, quickly, Nebula." I couldn't understand what they were saying. And as I was going with my friends, as I was going to my friends, and as I was going to go to my friends and ask them to explain why they were having their secret meeting, Scribblehopper held me back. "Did you hear, Defender? They are plotting against you. They want to take the gym. Don't let them see you. We need to get out of here at once. Come on. This is no time to drag your paws. Remember, Clever Chameleon's message? He warned you that someone was about to betray you. But he said someone from the team, not the whole team," I protested. "I don't want to be alone." Still the frog whispered in my ear, "Listen, I am here with you. You're not alone. Quick, let's get out of here before they notice." And so, with a saddened heart, I abandoned the gym team and headed towards the top of the volcano. We climbed and climbed and climbed, and climbed and climbed. I grew more and more discouraged, more and more tired, more and more sad and melancholy. But Scribblehopper jumped around happily. How strange. I just didn't understand how the frog could be so content about the whole situation, when I was so miserable. As we climbed close to the top of the volcano, it grew hotter. The air burned my fur like we were in the middle of the desert. I was so hot in my armor, even my whiskers were sweating. The whole time, Scribblehopper kept on asking me if I was tired and if he could help me carry the crystal gem. "I'm your friend after all," he croaked, "and friends need to help." "Thank you, Scribblehopper, but carrying the gem is my task and my task only. I promise, Blossom," I replied. Finally, we arrived at the top of the volcano. I breathed a sigh of relief. I was finally coming to completing the mission. We sat for a moment to catch our breath. Meanwhile, I stared at the burning lava that boiled in the mouth of the volcano. I turned towards Scribblehopper happily and said, "I'm so glad we made it. Soon I will throw the gem in the mouth of the volcano and the kingdom will be saved." "I'm Geronimo. Before you throw the gem, Do you want to eat something, or drink something, or drink some swamp grass tea? He responded. Thanks, friend, but I'll rest when I've gotten rid of the gym, I said, getting up so I could move closer to the edge of the crater. Hopper got up too. Then, who knows how, I tripped over the frog's big foot and fell. I thought I was definitely a goner, until right at that instant I managed to grab onto a rock. The frog grabbed me by the paw. Thanks, Hopper, I called. Pull me up. But instead of pulling me to safety, he yelled, Give me the gem, bright guardian. How strange. I explained once again that I couldn't give it to him, but he insisted. Give me the gem, and if you should fall, I'll throw it in for you. I tried not to look down as I argued with Hopper, my dear old friend. But was he really my friend? Just then I looked at him right in the eyes. At last I understood. Because staring at him in my eyes, I saw that they were full of greed. They weren't the eyes of a friend. You, I squeaked, looking closely at Hopper. You are the traitor. It was you all along. Furious, he shouted, If you don't give me the gem, I'll let you fall into nothingness. I turned for a moment and saw the bottom of the cliff. Sour Swiss Rose, did I mention I have a fear of heights, molten volcanoes, and friends who pretend to be friends but they aren't? Still, I refused to give up the gem, which made Hopper shriek with rage. What a fury, rat, you fool! As I stared at him, everything around Hopper began to slowly disappear, and in a few seconds, the frog turned into a cloud of dark smoke. Then I saw that it wasn't my dear frog friend at all. It was Nebula. I yelled. You were the traitor, I mean. You're not Hopper. You're Nebula. Right then, the hand that was holding me had vanished, and I fell. As I was falling, I squeaked, Help! My words were lost in the wind, and I kept falling. I thought that I would be a goner, and I would splat on the ground like the scrambled mouse. But luckily for me, the enchanted armor and the cleaver had given me saved me. Then suddenly, I felt kind hands beneath me, and kind voices reassuring me, and kind eyes smiling at me. It was my friends, my real friends from the gym team, who would never betray me. They all shouted, Don't be afraid, Bright Garden. We are all here to protect you. They placed me gently on the ground. I didn't have one scratch. I hugged them all. Thank you for saving me, I squeaked with tears in my eyes. True friends really are lifesavers. I felt bad for not having trusted the gym team. I'm truly sorry, but when I heard you were all talking around the fire, I thought you were plotting against me. I thought you were planning on stealing the gem, I explained. They were stunned, and they all burst into laughter. No, Guardian, we were talking about helping you. You're a friend. We would never do anything to mess up the mission for you. I sighed. If only I had asked my friends for what they were doing about the meeting. Well, there was only one lesson I would never forget. Communication is key in any friendship. I was grateful that my friends were really friends and would always forgive me. They got me thinking about real friends and fake friends, which made me think about Hopper. Poor friends, I need to find him and save him. Who knows when Nebula, with his evil ally, had imprisoned him. I thought about my frog friend as we scaled the volcano once more. We had to toss that gem inside. It was a matter of life and death. When at last we reached the top of the volcano, I stared down into the crater of the bubbling molten lava. Quickly, Defender, throw the crystal gem, my friends urged. With trembling paws, I took the sack from the gem from my pocket, and I threw it right into the volcano. Suddenly, however, a grey cloud quickly materialized into a shape that I knew well. It was Nebula. She reached out her hand to grab the gem, crying out triumphantly, I knew I would win in the end, you very rat fool. Don't even think about stopping us. She was about to grab the gem when Muscatina leaped quickly to attack and stung Nebula's hand. Youchie! Cried Nebula, forgetting for a moment about the gem, and that was all it took. The crystal gem fell down and down and down, and a moment later, the bright red lava swallowed it up. Right at that moment, the volcano exploded. We closed our eyes and hid our faces from the blinding light. Then the ground beneath us began to shake and shake. A wonderful scent spread all around us, and we opened our eyes. We realized that something extraordinary had happened. We did it. Nebula was defeated. Thanks to the crystal gem, the great fiery abyss had turned to Fabulous Crystal Mountain, where everything was peaceful. From the top of the mountain, there appeared a beautiful rainbow. That's what always happens in the kingdom of fantasy when great danger has been avoided. Beautiful arcs of color come out of the sky. Solo exclaimed solemnly, This mountain from now on will be called the Peace Peak. I smiled. Thanks to all my amazing friends, we managed to bring peace to the kingdom of fantasy. Yay for us, long live Blossom. I thanked each of my friends and hugged them all by one. By one. They really were the best. Still, I couldn't help but be worried. My mission wasn't truly finished yet. Yes, we had defeated the Dark Shadow and brought peace to the kingdom of fantasy, but I hadn't found Blossom's precious child, Winglet. Where could she be? I had to bring her home. What's wrong? Wolfie asked me, watching as I began to twist my tail up in knots. I promised Queen Blossom that I would bring her child home. And the worst part is, I don't even know where to look. Not even Mao the Magnificent could find her in his magic world of marvels. It's okay, Von Wild Brothers comfort me. Patting my shoulder, we'll go with you to search for her. We'll all meet Crystal Castle, all of us. Mosquitino Solo, the whole gym team. We'll put our heads together and come up with a plan. Together we can find her and bring her back. Blue Wing flew around my head, shouting, Guardian! You can count on the Mini Dragon clan as well. With this whistle, I'll call everyone together and we can help with the search. Reassured, my friend's support, I began to feel like maybe all was not lost. Let's go, I squeaked, but then I realized it would take me forever to walk all the way to Crystal Castle. Luckily for me, Olivia offered to carry me on her back. When I reached the Crystal Castle, I found Queen Blossom on the balcony of her room, along with her husband George. They stood staring off in the distance of the bright mountains. They looked sad. I felt awful. I'm very sorry I let you down, I told the Queen. I haven't been able to find little Winglet, she sighed. It's okay, Bright Defender. I know you did your best, which is all we can ask of ourselves. I have full faith in you, and if you couldn't find our daughter, then we will just have to accept that she is gone forever. Tears rolled down Blossom's sweet face. Oh, what a terrible tragedy. It was killing me knowing that the Queen was heartbroken. So I promised her that I wouldn't leave the Kingdom of Fantasy until I found little Winglet. As soon as I said it, I began to feel homesick. Maybe I could get my friends back to New Mouse City to send a care package. To cheer Blossom up, I told her about having defeated the Dark Shadow. She congratulated me on my success, along with Clever Chameleon, who had just arrived. The time had come to return Crystal Castle to the Kingdom of Fairies, he declared. Then he added to me under his breath, let's hope that this helps Queen Blossom get her sweet smile back. The smile of lightness. Suddenly she began to sing softly. At that moment, the castle lifted into the air and began to fly. I was so surprised we were moving, I completely forgot to hang onto something. I fell over with a clunk. My glasses broke into 1,000 pieces. Without my glasses, I can't see one whisker. Then I remembered that Mal had given me a pair of enchanted glasses. I took them from the inside of my armor and slipped them on. I looked around anxiously. They worked. I was able to see really well. The glasses were truly magical. As the castle zoomed up across the sky, I stumbled back onto my feet. Eventually, I began to lean over against the wall and make my way down along the hallway. That's when I found myself in front of Winglet's room. Just as I passed the door of Winglet's room, a strong gust of wind made the door burst open. It was the western wind. With sadness, I gazed down at the empty room, thinking of the bassinet and what might remain forever. I noticed that the western wind kept blowing around the silk curtains. It was almost like it was trying to get my attention. How strange. Slowly, I made my way into the room and peeked into the crib. Holy Swiss rolls, oh rye. I couldn't believe my eyes. A child was sleeping. I took off my enchanted glasses and looked again. Now it was empty. Then I understood. Thanks to the magic glasses, I was able to see baby Winglet. She had been there all along, but she was invisible, because she was the victim of an evil spell. Winglet was never far from home. She was actually there in her room, close to those who loved her. I cleaned my glasses and looked once more into the crib. The most beautiful baby I had ever seen was sleeping with her head on a silk pillow. Her hair was blue like the spring sky, and her skin was clear like the moonlight. and had a delicate light blue hue to it like all of the winged ones. She had long feathery eyelashes on the sweetest smile. I tried to call her by whispering, "Baby Winglet, can you hear me? I'm the bright guardian, time to wake up." But the eyes of the child remained closed. I took her in my arms and tried to wake her. "Wake up, princess!" But she slipped and slipped and slipped. Holding Winglet in my arms, I yelled with all my might, "Queen Blossom, I found her!" My voice echoed in the empty corridors of the crystal castle, dancing off the crystalline walls. Immediately, Blossom and her husband came running, followed by her advisors. Muscatina and Von Wild brothers, Wolfie and her friends, and all the mini dragons were there too. They gathered around me with puzzled expressions. Blossom ran to me with my arms open. "You found my baby? Where is she? I don't see her." I held the baby out to her. "She is here, in my arms," I explained. But Blossom shook her head. "I don't see anything," she sighed. Only then did I remember the enchanted glasses. Quickly I took them off and passed them to Blossom. As soon as the queen put those glasses on, her face lit up with joy. "It's her! It's really my little Winglet!" she cried happily. She held her tight in her arms and rocked her, but she didn't wake up. Blossom turned to me worried. "Why isn't she waking up?" I told the queen my theory. The princess was under some kind of evil spell. Besides sleeping, the spell also made her invisible, which is why no one could find her. Blossom's husband hugged her as the queen stared sadly at the little Winglet sleeping in her arms. I was thrilled we had found Winglet. If only she wasn't in a bewitched sleep. Just then, the fairy godmother stepped forward and looked kindly at Blossom. "I know how to make the little one, Your Majesty," she said. "We need a very powerful spell to balance out all of the evil of this witchcraft. We need a real love spell." Blossom gently put the little one in the bassinet, grabbed her magic wand, and spun around 3 times. But the baby remained invisible, so she tried again. Still nothing happened. I could tell Blossom was really disappointed, and a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes. "The spell is too powerful," she said. "I can't destroy it alone. But there's a solution. If you help me, your hearts together with mine can destroy it." So we all joined hands and sang along. Suddenly there was a flash of light, and the baby was visible once more. Everyone crowded around the crib and cried, "Oh, there's little Winglet. She's so beautiful." I was so thrilled the baby was now visible, but she was still sleeping. Did we need another spell? Before I could ask, Blossom stepped forward towards the crib. "All she needs now is a true love's kiss," she said softly, bending down to give the baby a kiss on her forehead. At that moment the child woke up. She opened her eyes, which were as blue as cornflowers, and smiled as sweet as the smell of flowers in spring. "Welcome back, darling," Blossom said, lifting the baby into her arms. Now then, I had found Winglet. There was only one more mystery to solve. Where, oh where, was my dear friend Scribblehopper? Right there my eyes fell on the strange statue of Scribblehopper that I had seen before in little Winglet's room. How strange. I patted the statue with my paw. It looked just like my frog friend, except with a bluish tint. In fact, the statue was made of pure crystal. I wonder who had made a statue of Scribblehopper, and why that expression on his face was so terrified. I decided I needed to get a better look, so I stepped closer to the statue. But it was still funny, so I remembered the enchanted glasses. So I put them back on. That's when I understood. The enchanted glasses let me see that it wasn't actually a crystal statue. It was Scribblehopper, and he had been crystallized by an evil spell. So, "Help!" I called Blossom. "Scribblehopper is trapped in that crystal statue." She quickly got her wand and ordered, "Release this frog, let him hop and be free. Release him from this wicked spell for all the world to see." As soon as Blossom uttered those words, the statue lit up and began to vibrate. It vibrated once more and more and more until it broke apart. In the end, the pile of crystal dust, my frog friend popped up. Everyone yelled, "Scribblehopper has returned!" While actually, I've been here the whole time. I tried to tell you, but no one seemed to hear me, or you were all just ignoring me. Blossom was glowing with happiness. No, seriously, she was actually glowing. Though maybe I had to do something with her blushtant, or the fact that she was standing near a light. She announced, "I would like to celebrate someone here today. Someone very special." I looked around. Was it someone's birthday, anniversary, graduation from fairy school? Then I realized that the queen and everyone else was staring at me. Instantly, my fur turned beet red. Yes, it turns out I, Geronimo Stilton, was the someone special. I was so surprised thinking about my new special status that I forgot to listen to half of what the queen was saying. When I turned, in a moment later, I heard her saying something about giving me a special gift that no one but those in the winged dynasty possess. It is a power that will make you stronger so that you can defend the kingdom of fantasy, she was saying. Then she added that I would be part of her family and I should call her sister. Everyone in the court shouted, "Oh, what an honor!" I was thinking that it seemed a little odd to call Blossom my sister, but I didn't want to offend her, the queen, so I just smiled. What could I say? And even though the whole sister thing seemed rather strange, a minute later the queen gave me the coolest gift. Apparently she was giving me the power to transport myself into dragoning. What is dragoning? Is it a light? Is it a dragon of light? And Blossom said I would be the strongest one of all. Next, the queen spun around 3 times and said, "Wings of light, come to me, reward this mouse for bravery. Give him strength, and with these wings he will be a dragoning." As everyone congratulated me, Moonflower, the nurse who had just arrived, stepped forward. "Oh, finally, little winglet. You have been found. I'm so happy. What a relief." She approached Blossom, extending her arms. "Oh, my queen, let me hold her once more in my arms." But Blossom headed towards the crib. "I prefer to put her back in the crib and bring it to my room. From now on, Winglet will always stay close to me. After everything that happened, I don't want her out of my sight for a single moment," she said. The nurse looked offended. "I just want to hold her for a moment," she insisted. Blossom, however, already put the baby in the bassinet. "Don't be offended, dear Moonflower, but as I said, from now on I will be the only one to care for her," she explained. For some reason, the nurse refused to take no for an answer. She neared the crib, muttering, "Let me hold her." Only then did I realize I didn't wear the enchanted glasses. Hastily I put them on, and suddenly before me I saw the most horrifying sight. The nurse fairy transformed herself into a witch. It was the Wither, Blossom's evil sister. I yelled, "Your Majesty, watch out. She's not a fairy. She's a witch. It's a Wither." But it was too late. Wither had already grabbed the baby and was holding her closer with a crazed look in her eyes. "Don't even think of stopping me. I'll bring the child with me and raise her to be far more wicked than yours truly. But don't fear. I'll soon return to reign over the entire kingdom of fantasy," she cackled. Right then the enormous crow flew over to the open window. He had feathers as black as ink and copper beak. I recognized him at once. Crowbar the Cruel, Wither's evil husband, he called. "Oh, my wife, my dark majesty, our dark kingdom awaits. Come on home with me." Wither yelled and ran towards him, clutching little Winglet, who had wailed loudly. I was feeling hopeless when suddenly I remembered about my new power. I could transform into a dragon. If I could only remember the words Blossom told me to recite in order to become a dragon. Something about the light and power and dragons. At last it came to me. I shouted, "Power light, power wings, turn me into a dragoning." I felt an enormous power, 2 huge dragon wings, shout out of my back. My paws grew long claws and huge dragon tails were covered in pointy scales. Even though I felt energized, a sense of calm came over me. Who knew being a dragoning could be so relaxing? I opened my mouth to yell at Wither, and my voice came out to become a powerful dragon roar. I almost scared myself. "Give me that baby at once," I roared. Not surprisingly, Crowbar the Cruel laughed in my face, and Wither waved her wand in the air. "Good luck finding us in the dark," she cackled. "Rats, the witch had turned day into night. I would have to fight in the inky darkness. I would struggle to adjust the dark when I felt Crowbar the Cruel attacking me with his sharp copper beak. At the same time, Wither began stabbing me in the side with her pointy wand. Luckily, I was wearing the armor of light that clever chameleon had given me. I was feeling pretty invincible when Crowbar came at me with his talons. Ouch! I wasn't expecting a sudden attack. I was caught by surprise. His claws managed to miss my armor and instead cut a delicate membrane in my wings. Drops of my dragon blood fell to the ground. Oh, how I hate the sight of blood. Still, when I heard the baby cry, I felt a surge of energy. Crowbar the Wither could not handle purity of that light. Crowbar swerved and lost control, calling, "No!" Wither covered her face with her hands, shouting, "No!" At that moment, disturbed by the purity of light, Wither thought of only one thing. She wanted to hide herself. She forgot that she had the baby in her arms and let the baby fall. Luckily, I was ready and darted down to grab her in midair. The crowd all yelled, "Oh!" The 2 wicked ones flew away defeated. "We'll be back. and next time we'll win. They called over their shoulders. This got the mini dragon's blood boiling. You'll never be winners, they shrieked. You'll never win against the bright garden or Queen Blossom. Good always conquers bad in the end. We will always be here to help protect Princess Winglet. I just wanted to be so relieved, and I was so relieved that it was finally over and Winglet was safe. The mini dragons all gathered around me to have a celebratory procession, and led me towards Blossom, who awaited me with open arms. I put her baby in her arms, and we all breathed a sigh of relief. At last, baby Winglet was back to where she belonged. I looked around and saw that we had returned to the kingdom of fairies. As soon as Crystal Castle was back on its foundation, Blossom spoke with the ceremony fairy, who began to write something down. I had no idea what the fairy was writing, and I was so tired to care. The queen led me to a guest room so I could rest. There I found a new pair of glasses on my nightstand, but I didn't put them on. Instead, I threw myself onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep and slept. I woke up hours and hours later when a fairy rudely smacked me on the snout. Well, okay, first she knocked on the door, but I guess I didn't wake up. So she yelled at my ears, and I still didn't wake up. She smacked me on the snout. Can I help you if I'm not a morning mouse? Anyway, where was I? Ah, yes. The fairy led me to the queen, who brought me onto the balcony. Dear brother, I have a surprise for you, she announced. Beneath the balcony was an enormous crowd filled with all the inhabitants of the kingdom of fantasy. They cheered. I noticed that the gym team that had come back to the Crystal Castle was in the crowd too, and there was a small orchestra playing beautiful music. The mini dragons were there too, waving flags and streamers and yelling, "Long live the dragoning! You are a hero!" Then a group of mini dragons lifted off into flight and reached the balcony carrying an enormous spiny grub cake. The mini dragons had out the enormous cake as they whispered back and forth to one another. "You tell him, no, you tell him, but I'm shy. I am too." "Oh, alright, we will all tell him together. This is a special cake just for you. It's not a medal, that is true. It's filled with thanks for all you've done, and a spiny grub hurts by a ton. Please eat it up. Now don't be shy. It's better than Mom's apple pie." I turned pale. How could I ever be able to eat a cake made of stinky spiny grub? Right then Blue Wing arrived. He was carrying a giant pill given to dragons when they have an upset stomach. All I had to do was eat the pill, and my stomach would be fine, he explained. There's only one problem. The pill was enormous. I was starting to panic when I noticed Blossom chuckling. She leaned over and winked over me. "Don't be worried about eating the cake. Remember, you can transform into a dragon. Dragoning loves spicy grub." Now that was my mission completed. It was time for me to return to New Mouse City Island. I said goodbye to Blossom, who at that moment was having a meeting with her people in the ceremony room. As soon as she saw me, she ordered, "Bring another crystal throne for my dear brother. I want him to sit next to me." I sat on the shiny crystal throne, which was lined with a soft blue cushion. On the throne, in small letters, was etched in the words, "Dragoning." The gym team and all the friends I had made during the adventure lined up to say goodbye and wish me a safe trip. Even now arrived to congratulate me. Who would have guessed you could do it? Not me. Blue Wings was the most emotional. He sobbed, "No, don't go. I miss you too much." Then he added, "Hey, I have an idea. Take me with you." I tried to patiently explain that I had a family and friends and my work waiting for me at home, and more importantly, that a mini dragon really belonged in the kingdom of fantasy. But he didn't seem to get what I was saying. He grabbed me by the sleeves with his little claws and wouldn't let go. "You've just got to take me with you," he begged. "You'll see. I won't bother you. I'm small. I wouldn't get in the way. You won't even know I'm around." Yup, that mini dragon was just like a starving mouse with a fresh block of cheese. He wasn't going to give up without a fight. More than anything, Blue Wing insisted on it. He loved to travel. "I love going on adventures, and I think I would love visiting Mouse Island," he said. "I never tasted cheese. It must be delicious, and if you want, I can dress up like a mouse. What could it take? A pair of fake hairs and a tail? I would be the perfect mouse." The mini dragon yammered. On and on and on. I could hardly think straight out. Then out of the corner of my eye, I spotted Olivia. "Do you think you could take me back to the real world to come to my home on Mouse Island soon? It's been great here in the kingdom of fantasy, but I miss my family and friends," I squeaked. Olivia smiled. "You don't need me to go back," she said. "What do you mean?" A minute later, I remembered. I was dragoning. That meant I could go and come back whenever I wanted to. All I had to do was transport myself. Before you leave for good, though, I have to ask you something. I want you to check the borders between the real world and the kingdom of fantasy, Blossom said. Since you'll always be our bright defender, I chewed my whiskers. Don't get me wrong, I love helping out the queen. I know defending the kingdom of fantasy from evildoers is important, but it is, and probably always will be, a very dangerous job. And though I've come a long way, I, Geronimo Stilton, am a fraidy mouse. I said goodbye to everyone, and everyone said goodbye to me. Scribblehopper wrapped me in a bone-crushing hug. He thanked me again and again for saving him. Then he whipped out a huge basket filled with tons of frog food for the trip back. Inside the basket I found giant gnat candies, and a fly tart, a maggot smoothie, and a jar full of swamp mud to put on the water lily bread. I thanked him, and then I looked for Bluewing, but I couldn't find him. Who knows where my little mini dragon friend had ended up? Then I announced, so then, I guess I'll be off. I scratched my head for the life of me. I couldn't remember what I was going to say to transform myself into a dragon. Fortunately, Olivia came to my rescue. She whispered the chant in my ear. Then I cleared my throat and repeated it. I flew all night, heading towards the borders of the kingdom of fantasy. I made sure that there were no gaps that any witches could use to pass through. Everything was in place, and the borders between the kingdom of fantasy and the real world was protected. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. My duty as a bright defender was done. Reassured, I headed towards the great vortex of light that marked the border between the kingdom of fantasy and the real world. I couldn't wait to get home, to my sweet mouse home and my beloved mouse family. And that's how I crossed through to the vortex of light that took me back to my very own new mouse city. When I arrived on the balcony of my house, I had been changed into a mouse again. When I traveled the kingdom of fantasy, it was the exact time that I had left. That's right. The time had stopped. The only difference was about me was that I was still dressed in my suit of armor. Last night I poured myself a nice, piping hot cup of hot chocolate, and I cut myself a decent-sized chunk of Parmesan cheese. It looked so good, I'm embarrassed to say I was practically drooling. I sat down at the kitchen table, and as soon as I was about to eat my first mouthful, I heard a little voice shriek, "Yum, this must be good cheese." "Who said that?" I squeaked. Then I heard a familiar sound. Suddenly, Bluewing headed popped out from behind a piece of furniture. "I haven't tasted it, but it smells delicious," a voice said. It was Bluewing. "What are you doing here, Sammy?" The mini dragon didn't seem to hear me. He seemed mesmerized by my cheese. A second later, he flung himself out onto the hunk of Parmesan cheese and began chewing. "This stuff is better than spiny grub." Next thing I knew, Bluewing jumped onto the table and began singing. "There's no mistaking it. Cheese is a major hit. Spiny grub I used to love, but cheese might be a step above." Then he began jumping all over at a warp speed. He flew onto the refrigerator, and then he crashed into a stack of pots. What a mess. Before I could yell stop, he threw open the fridge door and jumped in, sampling everything he could to get his claws on. "What is this, yogurt? We don't have this in the kingdom of fantasy. And what's this, ice cream? Yum. This constantly cold closet is the best." Then he saw some lollipops and grabbed a handful. "I can give these to my friends back home." I ran after him, trying to stop him, but he was unstoppable. He ran into the living room, and with the dirty chocolate-colored claws, he jumped onto my couch and turned on the television with the volume all the way up, yelling, "What is this box with all these magic pictures that move and talk? A television? I love it, and these cartoons are great." Then he ran into my bathroom and took a shower, getting suds all over my floor as he sang at the top of his lungs. With that, he slipped into the drawer of my nightstand, wrapped himself in my scarf, and fell asleep. I stared down at the mini dragon snoring peacefully, with a smile on his face. Even though he could drive a mouse crazy, I must confess, it was hard not to smile back. The next morning, I went to the office. I didn't want to leave Bluewing alone, so I stuck him in my pocket, wrapped in my scarf, and so he could stay warm. As I walked down the street, I said hi to all my friends. The sky was blue and clear, and the sun was shining brightly. Bluewing, who was super curious, stuck his head out the edge of my pocket, asking thousands of questions. "What is a taxi? What's a bicycle? Wow, I would like to have a little bicycle. Could you find one suitable for a mini dragon? And what's that store over there with that delicious smell coming from it? A bakery? Can we go there? I want to taste a croissant." When we reached the office, he jumped into the drawer of my desk, where I kept all my snacks, and had some Then he took a nap wrapped in my scarf. Finally, he jumped onto the keyboard out of my computer yelling, "Can I send an email to my mini dragon friends? How do I write?" Then he grabbed my phone and began calling all my friends. "I am Geronimo Stilton's new assistant. My name is Bluewing, and who are you?" "You're nice," he yelled. To surprise him, I bought him a little bicycle at a store. He circled around the room, shrieking, "Wheel! Look at me go!" Days passed, and Bluewing was happy, staying with me. He seemed to enjoy everything, living in a mouse world, which was so different from his own. He said it was a great dragon adventure, but after a few weeks I noticed that the mini dragon seemed sad. One night he jumped around my neck and hugged me. Tears sprang from his eyes. "What's wrong?" I asked him, concerned. Soon the mini dragon was sobbing up a storm. He explained how much he loved living in my house and trying new things and meeting all my mouse friends, but he misses home in the Kingdom of Fantasy and the other mini dragons. Plus, I know I said I love cheese, but now I'm missing the spiny grub. I want to go home. "Can you take me back to the Kingdom of Fantasy?" he said. And so at dawn, when the first rays of the sun lit up the Mouse City sky, I put on my armor once more. Then took Bluewing in my arms and went to the balcony of my house and yelled, "Power light, power wings, turn me into a dragoning!" And immediately, a flash of light surrounded me, and a moment later, my body transformed into an enormous, powerful, super strong dragon. And that's how my next trip to the Kingdom of Fantasy started. But that is another story for another time. A story of fantasy, adventure, and, of course, friends. And I give you my word, Geronimo Stilton's word.